Welcome, 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 Black. Hi. Welcome, 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 Black. I hope you are doing well. I'm sorry I've been MIA. Happy New Year. Happy New Year 2022. We're in the double digits. Let's see what that brings. I'm sorry I've been MIA. I'm gonna be very transparent. January has been a rough month, okay? January has been a rough month for your girl, all right? I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened here in my next video, so look out for that. But yeah, it's been a rough month. Just trying to make it through. But I'm here, I'm gonna try to be more consistent. I know people always say that, but I really am trying to be more consistent, give y'all content. Just, sorry, it's been a rough time, but we're here, we're Black, we're shining, we're in Thailand, and I'm coming to you with some Black knowledge. So bam, thank you, ma'am. So today we're going to be talking about bell hooks. We're going to be talking about the legacy of bell hooks, some really popular reads, literary works that she has put out. She unfortunately passed away, I believe it was like almost a month ago now, in like December or so of 2021, maybe November. And there was just a large public outcry and just acknowledging all of her works. And literally since then I was like, I need to do a video just about dedicated to bell hooks. Took me a second, but here I am doing it. So that's what this is. If you are someone who is interested in learning more about bell hooks, this will be great for you. If you're someone who loves bell hooks and is just like, I'm trying to sit and just be in this bell hooks honoringness, then this video also is for you. And if you just like, the way I talk, my energy, then this video is for you too. Okay. All right, so sit back, relax, get a little snack, do whatever. We're gonna hit the intro and then we're gonna get to it. So let's just start off with a quick, who was Bell Hooks? So Bell Hooks was a popular scholar, activist, professor, and feminist. Bell Hooks' original name or first name was Gloria Jean Watkins. She was born in 1952 in a very segregated town called Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And eventually she went on to change her name to Bell Hooks because she felt like she kind of wanted to reinvent herself when it came to her literary work and her becoming getting her PhD and masters and things like that. So now she went by Bell Hooks. She attended Stanford and later went on to get her master's and PhD. And if you are familiar with bell hooks, something you'll also know is that when her name is written, it is written in lowercase. So you actually don't capitalize the B and the H in bell hooks. And the reason that she purposefully does this is not only to honor her great grandmother, who I believe had bell hooks in her name, or her name was bell hooks, but also because bell hooks was like, I want you to focus on my work. Don't worry about, capitalizing my name. That's all that. I want you to read the title and I want you to read the work and focus on that versus focusing on my name. So she actually, whenever you write her name, you actually write lowercase b, lowercase h, Bell Hooks, which is also very unique and different. And pretty iconic, especially when you think about the fact that she has written so many books. So her name is printed on a lot of books and works, literary works. So it's always interesting seeing her name lowercase because it's kind of isn't that, if you think isn't that supposed to be? And it's no, actually, don't worry about that. Read the book. And Hooks would go on to write about race, sexism, class, and sexual identity, and kind of the intersections of all of these, even though the word intersectionality I don't think was coined at the time, but essentially kind of the relationship between all of these in one person, which I will get into in a bit. And one of the main things that was so revolutionary about Bell Hooks is that at the time of writing, she did something very unique. So what she noticed was that in a lot of conversations about racism, it was oftentimes focused on Black men. And then in a lot of conversations about feminism, it was oftentimes focused on white women. So she was just like, how come when we talk about racism, we don't really talk about Black women? And how come we talk about feminism, we don't talk about Black women's liberation? So she kind of was like one of the first people to kind of actually start writing like, okay, actually Black women have to deal with a lot and are often left out of these conversations when we're talking again about feminism and when we're talking about racism. So that's essentially what put her on the map and just made her very unique at the time of writing. So now we'll talk about her legacy. So one of her most famous books, or books that she's most known for, is her book called Ain't I a Woman? And just quick backstory, Ain't I a Woman was the name of a speech that Sojourner Truth gave. I forgot what year, but it was at some women's conference with racist Susan B. Anthony. And Sojourner Truth basically got up on stage and was just like, I feel like, I know I sound so bad. I feel like Sojourner Truth was like a former slave at the time or whatever. And she gave this speech called Ain't I a Woman? And it was basically like, okay, I'm a Black woman, I'm a woman, I've had to bear all these kids, I've had to experience all this racism and slavery and all these things, but I'm a woman, ain't I? Like, aren't I? And it was a very iconic, monumental speech, especially because she gave this speech in front of like a bunch of white women who were just like, huh? So Bell Hooks naming this the title of her book, which is very, impactful, and noted some of the things that she would talk about in the book. So her book, Ain't I a Woman, essentially talks about the racial hierarchy and racial patriarchy and different oppressions that happen within the African American community. And this, again, was monumental because, again, a lot of times, and some would argue still to this day, Black women are essentially like a forgotten community. And I can even only imagine even more so back when she was writing this, which I believe was like the 70s, 80s. Again, some would still argue that today Black women are basically forgotten, but it was very monumental for someone to like write this book and be like, you know what, Black women, we are here. We have to deal with these oppressions even within the Black community. Hooks argued that the convergence of sexism and racism in slavery meant that Black women have the lowest status and worst conditions of any group in American society. Bell Hooks coined this term. I mean, it's not a term, but she would often say what is white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. And she used this term to help Black women or help people define what is essentially intersectionality. So the interlocking, differentiating systems of like what it means to experience racism while also experiencing sexism or patriarchy, and things like this. And how all of these isms are essentially functioning all the time in our daily lives. Like, it's not just like, okay, somebody's gonna be just racist to me, or somebody's just gonna be like sexist towards me or something like that. It's kind of like how Black women are experiencing all of this at the same time. So I will say, in terms of her legacy for me, I feel like her work really helped me as a Black woman understand just how much specifically Black women are oppressed. And I think it was really beneficial too, because I think a lot of times in our lives, I'll say in my life as a Black woman, I would experience certain things. I would experience certain oppressions, and I felt like it was, when you don't have a language for something, it's kind of hard to describe, because you're like, okay, it's like, this is racist, but it's more than that. Something about this feels like it's a specific dig towards me, because it's probably, some kind of intersectional attack. And so I feel like my mind really opened up when I was like exposed to her work, because I was just like, okay, like, this is real. This is actually a thing. Like, this is something that's printed in a book. Like, this is an experience that isn't just in my head. Like, this is actually like, there's a reason for this. And I think that's really powerful. I think that was really powerful for me as a Black woman, especially as we are learning more about ourselves, if you're able to, if you have the privilege to, in higher education. So that's why I feel like I feel like I think a lot of people who maybe had the privilege of like going to a university and taking like an African American studies class or an Africana studies class, more than likely you would have read her work in these different scenarios. So I think for a lot of us, it was just like, dang, like not bell hooks, like a whole like icon, somebody who really just like maybe opened your eyes to a lot of just the specific oppressions. And I just remember being able to read her books and works and things like that and talk about them in class and have like dialogues about them and just write papers and stuff and just really be able to be entertained, but in a good way, by her work, which is amazing. And I will say that her work especially speaks to Black women who have oftentimes been left out of so many conversations. Also, when we talk about media representation as well. Throughout her career, Hooks paid a lot of attention to the representation of Black culture and bodies in popular culture, particularly music and film, as well as ways in which this was misappropriated. So Hooks had some strong opinions about popular culture, specifically rap as well. So while she kind of acknowledged that rap music like was a way that Black people, in a very new, interesting way in terms of music, were able to kind of like talk about their realities and specific oppressions on one side, like that being the good thing about rap. The kind of not so great side, as Hooks would say, is that a lot of times hip hop music, according to her, was misogynistic towards Black women and kind of kept Black women in a box and just was very patriarchal. So that was an interesting, and I would say a valid critique of hip hop. And again, she also had some opinions about other representations. I think I heard somewhere that she critiqued Beyonce. I'm not gonna speak too much on it because I really should do the research before I just talk about that. But so yeah, and like I know she like critiqued like Madonna and things like, not critiqued Madonna, but like talked about like how like someone being an icon wouldn't necessarily be, that icon wouldn't be able to be translated for like Black women and things like this. So I think that's really important. I personally am very interested in media representation, if you watch my videos, I feel like you could tell. So that's always been a very interesting part of her legacy as well in some of her works. So yeah, her conversations around like Black representation in the media. So now let's talk about some of her books or literary works. So Hooks has published over 40 books, 40 literary works, I'll say, which all include novels, children's books, and book chapters. If you are interested in getting more information about Bell Hooks, I would suggest starting off with one of her most popular or well-known books, a book that I talked about in this video called Ain't I a Woman? And another popular book that she is also well known for is called All About Love, New Visions. And yeah, I just encourage you to read her books. And I think the main thing I also want to emphasize is just the importance of like continuing her legacy. I think unfortunately the America that we live in, a lot of our struggles are gonna like stay the same, especially like of Black women, until like change really is like affected, which I don't, we'll see when that'll happen. But I'll just say, like, I just think it's so important for like Black women to read her work. I think it's so important if you are somebody who has multiple intersections, like living with multiple intersections, whether you're like Black and trans or like, I don't know, other, just different intersections, to really be able to like read her work, because it's kind of just like opening a book and like looking in a mirror and being like, someone being able like, no, this is actually a thing. You're not crazy. You're not just making everything up. You're not just being upset about so many random things. Like, this is actually a thing. So that's why I just feel like I would like to encourage you all to just like continue her legacy, whether you're buying her books or you telling your family members or future children like about this, because I just think her work is just so impactful and important. And I don't think it should just be like, oh, if you were in higher education, like you read her books or whatever, because I feel like they're definitely very readable, very easy to understand. And yeah, I think everyone should. Just want to emphasize that Bell Hooks has a special place in my heart, as being somebody, one of the first works that really opened my eyes to like the struggles that I would experience, I still experience. And yes, shout out to all of us who have been able to read Bell Hooks and just like connect with the work. The scholarly world really lost an icon, a trailblazer. We will miss you, Bell Hooks. All right, praying for your family. Thank you for your brilliance. Thank you for furthering the Black community in the incredible way that you did, and just furthering Black women and our struggles and putting a name to our struggles and ushering in just a whole generation of powerful Black women after to come and speak on these issues and inspire people like me. Oftentimes I feel like the world just like ignores the struggles of Black women, and honestly there are even intersections within that of like certain kinds of Black women or whatever, things like this. So I just think it's really impactful and it should be celebrated when there is a work that is like, you know what, cut through all that, like let's talk about it. So yes, shout out to you, Bell Hooks, RIP. All right, praying for your family, and yeah, let's all learn more, read more. I think we need a lot of that. There's a link down in the chat with a website where you can purchase all or a lot of her books for a pretty cheap price. It's like a little website. So if you all are interested in any of the books that I mentioned in this video or just looking through her catalog, definitely check that out. Comment down below, how will you remember Bell Hooks? What does her legacy mean to you? Let me know how you're feeling. Also, let me know what kind of video you want me to talk about next. I am open to ideas. I have ideas, of course, but always open to ideas. Watch out for my next video, okay? Because my next video is gonna be like a little vlog about something I experienced this month. And I talked about how it's just kind of rough, so watch out for that. That is going to come soon. And yes, Black knowledge is Black power. See you all soon. Have a good day, week, month, year. Welcome into 2022. We're about to be a month in. Let's get it. And I will see you all soon.